And I've camped out there with the other guy in the band. We've got drunk, we have lost shoes, we have done things that we can't talk about anymore. I think the rock and roll lifestyle that we remember probably from the 80s and that kind of what sounds great or what's great to put in a story or a movie is not as relevant now.
So I'm here with Herman Li from DragonForce, and it's the final day of Wacken. Herman's just arrived, so he's like full throttle, but I'm like, I'm kind of winding down slowly, but I still have some interesting questions for Herman. So I understand you're based in Los Angeles. How do you find the difference between the audiences over there? Because Europe is quite embracing of metal culture. Do you find the same in LA or?
Living in London for like many years, right? And then moving to LA is definitely a different kind of culture for sure. But the fans, as different as they are, when we do a show, I feel like the energy, the love is still there in the same way, but just delivered differently. I have to say, in Europe, obviously, the music is much more diverse, right? The fans listen to way more different kind of diverse stuff, and the festival is much more diverse. So, I came here back in before camping as a punter myself. Wow. I've done it all here. It's definitely feel more special when I come back here in Europe to do these festivals.
Yeah, so you've seen it so this is my first Wacken, so I haven't camped. I've literally just come here for work, so I don't know the other side of the festival. But that must be an amazing sense of achievement to be performing somewhere where you came to enjoy. That must be amazing.
Yeah, a lot of these festivals that, over in the UK and Europe, before DragonForce was known, I came here back then. You could buy a ticket on the door. It's not sold out after one day of announcement. And I've camped out there with the other guy in the band. We've got drunk. We have lost shoes. We have done things that we can't talk about anymore. And coming back again to play the main stage here, definitely something special, for us. And I was a kid, growing up in South London, playing guitar. And now I'm doing it for a living. Probably gonna do that forever. It's definitely a dream.
I suppose this is the obvious question, but I ask everyone this. And what is it that wakes you up in the morning? What is it that drive to keep you doing it? Because it can be quite a tough, brutal industry in some ways. So is it just the love, or you just can't imagine yourself ever doing anything else?
Look, I'll be honest here. I think the music industry is really tough and it can get very ugly. There's a lot of dark sides of the music industry that everyone know about. It's very tough on artists, more and more. But you go out, you play, you see the happy, the smile, the faces that you light up. You bring happiness. It's something special that most jobs don't get to do. We're out there, we're just bringing happiness. There's nothing more, nothing negative. We just bring happiness. So that wakes me up, to be able to say, what, I made someone happy today.
Yeah, you made someone's day better, and you kind of made someone rock out. So it's a cool lifestyle, I feel. And everyone knows you as Herman Li, from the band. And who are you when it all stops, when the music stops, when you go home? Who are you behind closed doors? How would you describe yourself as a person?
Luckily, being a musician, you get to be honest. I'm not an actor, right?
Yeah.
What you see on stage is the real me, but probably turn up to 12 to 18, right? Maximum level. But I'm still the same guy. I enjoy the same thing. I listen to the same kind of music, and we kind of displayed it on our stage that we're kind of a bunch of nerds. We have massive dragons that comes out with video game arcade machine, and that's the kind of same stuff I have. I don't have a dragon that big at home, but I have my toys and I love my video games and I love my music and the guitar. So
Yeah. So what's the inspiration for the name DragonForce? I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but to someone who doesn't know, obviously the name conjures kind of fire and passion and quite heavy hitting, isn't it? It's quite a graphic band name, I feel.
I guess we wanted something epic, right? Something that because of the music we play is uplifting and triumphant. So we needed an epic name, and we needed something that is not too long. Yeah. Something you can shout. DragonForce, 3 syllable. no more than that. So that was kind of like, it meet the nerve criteria of what we're looking at in terms of numbers and the epicness of what we want to kind of like display at our music and our show, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's quite a hard-hitting name. I think it's a good one. Some band names you're like, I don't know, I'm not going to remember that tomorrow, and that's really bad. You need to remember the band name. And you mentioned as well that you love to play video games, and are you into like other kind of fantasy and mythology and that kind of thing?
You know, a lot of these are now crossover, right?
Yeah.
You know, from horror stuff, fantasy stuff, the video game stuff, a lot of crossover now in terms of audience and stuff like that. So, yeah, you know, I can say I'm a nerd in all kind of things.
I recently actually got back from the United States, and I was there filming a series on haunted locations, and I went to the Glen Tavern in Los Angeles. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's an old sort of hotel that's supposedly haunted. I don't know if you've ever been there or...
I heard the stories and stuff like that. So
yeah.
It's actually pretty scary. That's one place I don't think I can stay there.
No, I checked in and... very odd place, a bit kind of lost in time, I feel. So you wouldn't pick it. If you were picking a hotel for a night, you really wouldn't, it wouldn't be the obvious choice because it's kind of like lost in time. But there was an eerie vibe, there was a strange vibe. And the most exciting thing that happened when I was there was the wardrobe door just flung open and hit the bed because they're very close together. But it was weird. It was sort of a screw turn door. So I was like, what was that? So that would be my only experience of ghosts in that vicinity. But I think there's so many like ghost hunting shows on TV. And so do you watch that kind of thing? Do you believe in ghosts?
You know, I tell you, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
But I think after I watched The Exorcist when I was like probably 8 or 9 years old, right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
I don't know why my parents let me watch it.
Yeah.
Right? That young.
Yeah.
But for a long time, I was scared of, you know, of the attic in the house.
Oh yeah, I think it's either the attic or the basement. Those are the two no-go areas. It's like you don't want to go up there and you don't want to go.
I'm always scared of the attic for years, and you know, I'll tell you, I don't believe in ghosts, but like certain places, I'm just not going to stay there.
Yeah, just in case you don't want to risk it. And some places there are a bit of an odd feeling, so you walk in and you're like, a bit uncomfortable. Don't feel like I want to relax here. So yeah,
I'm going to stay safe. You know, it's like you don't believe it, but sometimes, you know, things just happen. I don't want to see. I'm going to stay a non-believer as much as I can.
Yeah,
you know?
I think you've got to see something to believe it. And until then, you are pretty much a non-believer. So I guess that kind of sums up your kind of thoughts on ghosts. And also, a lot of bands, there's a running theme for me with the people I've spoken to at Wacken. And everyone has some sort of reference to robots or aliens or the future in terms of like their album covers are sort of talking about robots and all of this stuff, and I wasn't aware of that until I came here. But what would you like to happen when you're no longer here to perform your music? Can you imagine sort of robots performing your sound? Would you like that to happen, or would you like the music to sort of die with you? That sounds very morbid, but do you know what I mean? Would you like someone else to be, or sort of a visually imposed version of you on stage?
You know, I'm not talented enough to be remembered, unfortunately, like the great musicians, the classical musicians, these incredible musicians. So luckily, you know, we do have a song that is that is very well known in video game circles, and it just came out. It was on the movie Despicable Me 4.
Okay.
You know, so like, you know, the music is probably gonna live on that way.
Yeah,
you know?
I see, like in movies and stuff. But in terms of live performances, you can't imagine yourself being sort of human or like into this sort of sci-fi character for people to watch. It kind of seems a bit of a cheat for the audience, doesn't it? Because you're not there in the flesh. It seems a little bit of an odd concept to get your head around.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that some certain like musicians that just not actually in existence, they're just like not AI generated, but generated by human kind of avatar. I think they were headlining one of the stages at Coachella, you know?
Yeah.
So there's creativity that's part of a human form origin in the first place that people can still relate to when it's passed on to another object, right? So you just don't know where the future brings you.
It is quite scary to think of where the future could take the music industry, because if we get into that world where musicians aren't necessarily needed in the physical form, you could be performing everywhere and, well, your virtual version, and that's not what live music is traditionally about, but maybe the times will just move that way and that's the way things will go. But yeah, it's kind of an odd topic. I've never really thought about it as much as I'm talking about it now, but I don't know if you kind of, I don't know. I mean, you've obviously never thought about it either, I guess.
No, I haven't thought about it. Probably the most, something that I've thought about is AI going to replace me?
Yeah, as a human, not even as a band member, just as a,
Yeah, luckily I don't play perfectly enough that I don't think AI can make as many mistakes as me. So, so I'm gonna do that. Imperfection is what's gonna keep me going.
Yeah, so no one can clone the imperfection, but the imperfection is what makes it different each time as well. And you wouldn't have those sort of personal touches like, oh, you play a few notes wrong, you make a joke with the audience. That would all go away if everything was sort of robotized. So it would be less personal for fans as well.
Yeah, you lose the moment that's special now. The mistakes are not mistakes, they are the moments that you're gonna remember that are special that you cannot find another time.
Yeah, and would you say that you, completely different question, completely going the opposite direction, do you think you live quite a rock and roll lifestyle, or are you quite mellow?
I think the rock and roll lifestyle that we remember probably from the 80s and that kind of what sounds great or what's great to put in a story or in a movie is not as relevant now as it is.
I feel like everyone's working too hard now.
Yeah,
it's like, where's the time to party and stuff?
Yeah, the stakes are too high for musicians now. And also we've been giving a lot of tools of technology that we can get in control of our music and our show that we ended up working instead of just going out partying.
Yeah.
Because it's like partying and having fun is really important for what we do, because why we do this in the first place, right? Because we get to do something we love. But having that kind of, having a phone, having all these computers, you can create your music, you can make the visual part of that music another experience, beyond that only you can, express it out, and using computers and the lights and all that, right? Now I got control of these toys. I'm like stuck on a bus going, oh, I watched the video, I can make this show even better.
Yeah, because now your tour bus could actually be a creative space if you wanted. You could write an album while touring if you wanted to, if you had the headspace or the head time to do that. But before, sort of computers and the way that recording studios are so digital now, that the possibilities are quite, creative. You don't have to be sort of drinking beer and falling asleep and all of that. You can actually create something else and be inspired by your surroundings. So.
Yeah, I think the old day they didn't have all this technology. What are you going to do? There's nothing to do, just get drunk.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but now there's actually more room for creativity. And speaking of technology, how do you do you get a lot of online criticism? Like the fact that people can reach you now in the social media world, people can send you a message, people can comment on everything you do. I mean, you could come off stage and someone could send you quite a nasty message. I'm not saying they do, but have you experienced that kind of feedback, and how do you maintain positivity if that's the case?
I think we got much more negative comments when we first started to get known. As a new band that came in, we got when we had our big break. There's a lot of people confused the music, they couldn't accept it. But these days, it's been really, really positive generally. I mean, I really don't get that many nasty messages. Unfortunately, I can say, for the nasty people that want to send them, I'm not trying to say, wake up and do it again.
Yeah.
But, we're the long career now, and a lot of those people moved on in their life.
Yeah, I feel as well it is tougher for new artists because everyone has an opinion and you're not established enough to have people's respect. So people think that they can tell you their opinion more. And I think they think you're more reachable because perhaps you don't have a record label or a manager running your social accounts. So I think that kind of adds to the trolling. And I think the big mistake some people make is responding, because people can't necessarily just keep trolling themselves. They, you know, if you don't react to something, then people are just having an argument with themselves, basically. So
yeah, unfortunately for a lot of artists, it seems like a lot of the fans doesn't look at them as like normal human. You know, they wouldn't say these things in your face, right? Because that is be crazy. It would be like a crazy thing, and most of these people cannot understand that we're just like normal people, and things do affect their life, you know, the artist's life, what they write on the internet. I mean, luckily I was told I got some kind of superpower that I can suppress these things. When I read them, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, no, there's definitely two types of people. There are people that do take that really to heart and struggle with it, I think. But I think maybe it's just experience, and maybe it's just people are different, aren't they? If you can sort of go, that's the perfect attitude to have, because it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect your work. Yeah,
I think the art, you know, to be an artist, you gotta block out all what's out there, the noises, and just concentrate on what you do and express, because, you know, there's always been opinion about artists, you know, since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And you gotta do your thing to, you know, to satisfy yourself, be who you are.
I suppose the opinions of strangers shouldn't really matter, as long as people are coming to your gigs, listening to your music, buying your records, and keeping you in the position where you can perform. A few sort of people who don't love what you do is completely irrelevant to your life, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Too bad there's not like a rock and roll rock star education course where they teach you about stuff like accounting, legal stuff, all the way to mental health, how you can keep that going when you become famous. You know, last thing you want to be is to be famous first and then poor. Then you don't even have a way to protect yourself against that.
But I think as well, like people who have a creative, artistic temperament are perhaps more sensitive or more than your average person. But I think as well it's quite personal, because say you work in a bank and someone says, oh, you did a rubbish job, it'll be like, okay, I just made a mistake. But if someone's being very personal about things that have meant something to you, then it's a bit like the criticizing you, like who you are. So I think that's why artists are a bit, you know, find those kind of things difficult to deal with. But it's not only strangers, it's the media, it's everyone has an opinion. Like if you put a record out, I mean, you get reviews from music magazines, from online press. So it's the thick skin is quite an important tool, I feel.
Yeah, luckily, I think for artists now, in a certain way, I mean, it's double-edged sword, right? Because now people can listen to the music out there by pressing a button. The reviews become kind of irrelevant. If someone hear, I mean, are you going to listen to a reviewer, or are you just going to go press the button and listen to yourself?
Well, yeah, actually, by the time you've read the review, you could have just listened to it and made up your own opinion. So the music industry is changing, and I guess you've seen it change over the time that you've been in it, and it's kind of growing. And we already touched on what the future might be. So, I mean, I feel like, is there anything you want to discuss? Do you have a new single or a new album or something you want to promote? Or
you know, I'm always online, right? I'm a musician, but I also became a content creator at the same time. So, you know, I can always be found, and I always can see messages coming in. So,
yeah,
you know,
people need to kind of reach out to you and embrace everything that you're doing, because you're putting your creativity into your online content, I guess, when you're not on stage.
Yeah. So, I mean, they can go check it out. I mean, it's, you know, I'm okay with whatever people say. You know, to be honest, doesn't really bother me so much.
Yeah.
As if we're making a noise and they hear it, that's okay.
I think the worst thing you could possibly be as an artist is very bland and no one has an opinion, because that means you're just very insignificant to people. So some feedback is okay.
Yeah, so I think no matter what, all the artists just gotta go out and do their own thing, no matter what it is, what feedback it is, because you know what, you're not gonna be perfect the first time. It takes practice, right? To create, you do it again and again, you get better at creating, if it's content creator or music. So just don't be afraid to create out there. You're not gonna make your masterpiece the first time. So you're just gonna keep doing it and you get better at it. And that's the way.
What are you most proud of? What have you created that you're most proud of? If you could have one thing and say that was pretty good, pretty damn good.
You know, I'm proud of what we do. You know, it's And each album we make is like a snapshot of my life, right? It's not really me. It is, but only at that point in time. I've learned more after. So, I'm happy with all of them, even though they're not perfect. Sometimes I listen to them and go, oh, it's kind of a little bit messy.
But I feel as well, if you take into account the process of an artist, by the time a lot of people hear it, you're a different person to when you started it. So it's almost like you're always one step ahead of the audience because you've done that, you've put that piece of work there, it will be released, it's quicker nowadays because, you can get it online fairly quickly, but people evolve so quickly. So you're almost a different person with something to say, by the time an audience has appreciated your last work. So it's just this constant cycle of evolution, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what I'm most proud of is I have continuously learn stuff. I've never said I know anything. I never said I know everything.
I'm a genius now.
I'm always learning things. So people can look at our show from the early days, middle time to now. We have improved. I'm always learning things. At the beginning I was just a guitar player. Now I know how to program lights of the show, video of the show, production. I know business, accounting, and how to strike a deal.
Wow. So you're very self-sufficient, I guess.
Yeah, I don't need a manager. Yeah. I'm happy to just get my hands and get dirty and negotiate these deals.
Yeah, I think you have to do more than ever these days to kind of cut through. You have to have everything tight and everything kind of a finished product. So it's a good job you know all those skills. That was a really interesting chat, and I think it would give a lot of people a little bit of insight into the music industry and what it's actually like to be a music artist. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.